You don't need me to tell you that our friends on the left tend to take it poorly when things don't go their way, and it stands to reason since they dominate all the institutions and all the airwaves and pretty much every other damn thing. So these are people who are, shall we say, habituated to getting what they want, and perhaps to a degree that is not altogether healthy or normative. And you may have noticed they've gone especially mental, even by their own standards, over the downfall of Claudine Gay at Harvard. They're still yammering on about it on the news right now today, and it will surprise you not at all to learn that the prevailing view amongst the chattering classes is that Dr. Gay, term used loosely, is not a disgraced serial plagiarist who was forced to resign over egregious and repeated professional misconduct. Rather, she is the innocent victim of a right-wing racist conspiracy, just like she said she was. Good evening, I'm Anderson Cooper, and CNN can confirm after a day of intrepid journalism that everything is racist and the orange man is Hitler. Back to you, Wolf. Of course, lost in all of this caterwauling is any defense of Claudine Gay's conduct, any attempt at vindicating her academic record, or any denial of her wrongdoing. Rather, the professional truth-tellers in the monument to honesty and good faith that is our news media establishment have played basically the same gambit they played with a certain laptop formerly owned by a certain crackhead related to a certain president, which is to say, they just breeze past the whole issue of factual veracity and they say, you must reject this because of where it came from. Claudine Gay has been stitched up by a sinister cabal of right-wing podcasters and filthy conservative reporters, and they acted solely for the purpose of bringing her down. Therefore, you must support her, and you must reject everything they say, or else we will call you racist. Which, as a practical matter, is no different from that laptop has to be censored and not reported on because Rudy Giuliani had a copy of the hard drive, and this is an October surprise. It's a nakedly political act meant to influence the result of an election. Yeah, you think so? And also, you'll notice again that the last thing they want to talk about is whether the person actually did the thing being alleged. And obviously, it goes without saying that they only act this way when they are protecting a prominent Democrat or someone closely associated with a prominent Democrat, as the case may be. But why is Claudine Gay so important for these people to be working themselves into such a ridiculous lather over it? It's easy to see why everybody wanted to censor the laptop and just sort of backfill the logic later, because that was a thing that might have had the potential to flip the election had it been covered in the way it warranted being covered. But a Harvard president who made a fool of herself testifying on Capitol Hill and then got busted for intellectual grand larceny and had to be got rid of when the billionaire donors kept fleeing for the hills one after the other. I mean, yeah, it's not ideal. But what is it about Claudine Gay resigning that warrants this degree of fake news media histrionics, even still at this late date after the matter we thought had been settled and concluded? You know, when the news came out that Gay had lifted large sections of her doctoral dissertation from some other thing that somebody else wrote, I got too curious for my own good, as I often do. And I decided to go and read that entire dissertation, which I would encourage everyone to do, because this was all the way the hell back in 1997, and I still came away from it thinking, holy shit, man, that is all it takes to get a Harvard doctorate? You're serious right now? Because it's just a bunch of esoteric, navel-gazing, garden-variety, race huckster horse shit. I'm sure there's 100 subreddits you could go to right now to read similar quality content from people who are not future Ivy League presidents. So the plagiarism isn't really the thing that sticks to your ribs after you're through with this thing. The thing that sticks with you is, wow, even if this was 100% original plagiarism-free content, it would still be embarrassing nonsense. So why is the downfall of Claudine Gay such a big deal for our establishment class and their fake news media sock puppets? I think it's because there's probably not only one Claudine Gay. There might be hundreds of Claudine Gays for all we know. In fact, it would be impossible for there not to be hundreds of Claudine Gays. The colleges and the universities, they were the first outpost and the first stronghold of woke identitarianism. So an entire country full of Claudine Gays, wouldn't it be the logical end result of a world and an institutional culture in which one's external physical characteristics are prized far above and beyond any consideration of merit or ability? where you can gain an Ivy League presidency on a shockingly scanty publishing record that was mostly stolen anyway, and nobody even bothers investigating the veracity of your credentials before they hire you? A world like that cannot last forever. It will inevitably collapse under the weight of its own corruption and incompetence. Why are they freaking out so hard about this? Because they are terrified that this is just a first domino, and they won't be able to keep the rest of them from falling, because they see their edifice of lies unraveling in real time, and they don't like it very much. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where I'm sure you're as excited as I am over the new Marvel series about the deaf one-legged Mexican chick. How I wish I was making that up. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I'm your eponymous host and humble servant. And would you believe I started kindergarten the exact same year that the Federal Department of Education came into being? I mean, of all the gifts Jimmy Carter gave us, that one has kept giving the longest, I think. Now, there are a lot of different methods they use to formulate those world education rankings that you often see. All of them are of limited utility for their own unique reasons, but to the extent that correlation can be indicative, if not inclusive, of causality, all of those rankings are in agreement that on the day we started having a national level Department of Education, we were comfortably in the top 10 in the world in scholastic achievement. Today, not so much. Somewhere between Sri Lanka and Honduras, I believe. And where is it the worst of all? It would be easy to give an answer that's based on race or economic status or the party affiliation of the people who run the school system, but I've got a more instructive way of doing it. Per capita education spending. As per capita education spending increases, scholastic achievement declines at an almost perfectly inversely proportional rate. The biggest cities spend the most on public education, by far, and their students have the most shockingly deficient results. I'm sure those stories didn't escape your attention last year about certain schools in Los Angeles and Baltimore and elsewhere, where 0 students achieved grade level proficiency in mathematics. 0. And how do you even do that? Because that's worse than not teaching the children well. You almost have to be trying to make them stupid on purpose to pull that off. There should be a few kids, just by statistical happenstance, who are inherently smart enough to pass a grade level math test, even if you haven't tried to teach them anything. And those cities, well, of course they are top 10 in the country in per capita spending on public education. And I wonder why that is. I wonder why the more money you spend on teaching the children, the more badly you fail them. But wait, I hear you say, if we've got this big, gleaming, mega-budgeted federal Department of Education, shouldn't it be preventing shit like that from happening at the local level? Well, in a perfect world, no. Because in a perfect world, there is no federal Department of Education. But in the best possible version of this world, yes, you would like to think it would do something like that, but does it? No. But thank God for Common Core. And if you've ever tried to help your kid with Common Core math homework, I know you were giving me an amen right now. Common Core and No Child Left Behind. Bless your heart, both of you, Democrats and Republicans. You guys are always able to agree on the really important things, like when to build a magnificent new federal bureaucracy that consistently achieves the opposite of the thing it's supposed to do. And by God, in the Joe Biden era, we got no shortage of those, Jim Eagle. But here's the thing about the Department of Education. For the first dozen or so years it was around, it didn't do much harm or much good. It didn't really have any discernible effect upon the everyday life of the average school kid. It wasn't trying to decolonize your son's math homework and turn him fucking bisexual. But then a magical thing happened. A thing that enabled the Department of Education to become the monstrously invasive leviathan that every fledgling bureaucracy aspires to be. Indeed, to be reborn as a monument to itself. The government got into the student loan business. And boy, didn't I feel the effect of that bill in a hurry, because that bill happens in between my junior and senior years of high school. So I go in first day senior year, as you do, saying, I'm going to load up my schedule with wood shop, auto shop, metal shop, fucking pottery shop, and senior year is going to kick ass. Except, nope, sorry son, I guess you didn't get the word. It just came down from Washington. We got to shit can all the vocational classes pronto. No more teaching of valuable trade skills. Immigrants are going to do all that shit now. It's going to be great. The new model is everybody goes to college, so it is college prep and nothing else from now until forever. This ain't your grandpa's high school, son. You Generation X kids, you're all going to go get bachelor's degrees, and then you're going to have next generation high-tech computer jobs in a cubicle farm down at the widget factory. And if this thing goes the way it's supposed to, you'll be paying off some predatory high-interest student loans that cannot be discharged in bankruptcy for at least 1/3 of your adult working life. And doesn't that sound so much cooler than being a freaking auto mechanic or a welder or some shit like that? Now, there are some who would tell you, idiots I believe they're called, that I am conflating two unrelated events, that the timing of the passage of the student loan bill was merely coincident with the timing of the new education department guidance to the nation's high schools saying, okay, that's enough of that vocational shit. We need more raw meat for the industrial student loan debt sausage grinder. And frankly, if you believe that, you are banned from the channel. And who has prospered in the 30 years since then? Well, it ain't your kid's education. But the education department, hell, administering the student loan racket is the biggest thing they do. That bill, it put their agency in the big leagues, gave it a backbone, made it respectable. And you know what else? Well, we're big enough now that we could totally insinuate ourselves into the daily lives of every school-aged child from sea to shining sea if we wanted to do something like that. If we wanted to turn every single math problem into impenetrable, politically correct gobbledygook, I bet we could actually do it. And I don't need to tell you who else got rich beyond the dreams of avarice without having to do anything to earn it. That's right, it was your local university. Oh, what's that? You need $500 million for a new football stadium, and we're a basketball school? Let me scratch you a check. We'll build that son of a bitch right away. Imagine if you ran a store and the government told you, okay, everybody who walks into your front door is required by law to spend at least $500, and if they don't, we'll make up the difference for you. It's good work if you can get it. So where does this all leave us? Well, it leaves us in desperate need of a top-to-bottom reimagining of all of our educational systems. And by reimagining, I mean burn the fucking thing down and start over. At the primary and secondary levels, as a practical matter, our schools exist to enrich dumbass bureaucrats and crooked union leaders. And the kids don't learn much of anything except how to embrace alternative sexualities and how to view the world exclusively through the prism of current-day manufactured racial grievance. At the college and university level, meanwhile, our schools exist to provide cushy, permanent jobs for useless affirmative action hires and to furnish lavish lifestyles for university administrators. No industry in U.S. history has made more money in a 30-year period than the universities have made since the advent of the federal student loan scam. And if you've interacted recently with a young college graduate, you don't need me to tell you these places aren't delivering much in the way of actual education. In all these years, I've only heard one national political figure even broach the topic of getting the government out of the student loan business. Who was it? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the liberal Democrat. The Republicans, well, you'll hear them complain a lot, and correctly, about the fact that our institutions of higher learning are increasingly a bunch of left-wing indoctrination camps. But actually reversing the policies that helped make it that way, they never mention that, ever. Which is weird, since they're the guys who always say they want smaller government. And I'm not on board with the radical libertarians who would say just shit can the public schools altogether and we'll switch to a system of private and charter schools only. I think we have to have public schools. I think it's a necessary evil. But they don't have to be dens of perversion and corruption and incompetence. And they wouldn't be if we just stopped electing wildly unqualified radical activists to sit on our local school boards. And getting public employee union money the hell out of politics, that would help out a lot too. Why are public employee unions allowed to participate in elections in the first place? I don't have a good answer for that. But it certainly doesn't create any benefit for the kids who attend the schools or the parents who pay for them. That is for damn sure. But on the college and university level, we need to start asking ourselves whether these places still need to exist at all. in their current form. In a pre-internet world, it's easy to see the practical necessity of colleges and universities. For many hundreds of years, if you wanted to gain any sort of specialized knowledge, you had to go to a place that had the books you needed. And that was either a library or a college. But today we all walk around with a little glowing rectangle in our pocket that contains the entire collected repository of human knowledge and understanding. And what do most of us use it for? Gambling and porn. So is there any specialized knowledge in today's world that you can't gain without going to a university campus? Hell no, there is not. And look, if you're planning to go into law or medicine or the applied sciences or whatnot, then by all means, we still need some sort of higher learning institutions, universities you might call them. But the idea that the average young man or woman needs to spend 4 years at a university and take on a 6-figure debt load just as a matter of course, just to gain general knowledge that they need in the real world, that's nonsense. That's the sort of knowledge you can gain just by pulling your damn phone out of your pocket. That is to say, if your definition of education actually has anything to do with gaining knowledge. And I think for a lot of people it doesn't, and especially not since the advent of the federal student loan scam. A college degree used to be commonly viewed as an achievement to be earned. But after 30 plus years of federally subsidized student loans, it is not an achievement to be earned. It is a consumer product to be purchased. It's a ticket you buy to get your kid into polite society. The idea that it should be accompanied by a robust body of knowledge or a corpus of useful skills or a set of meaningful insights about the world, I don't think that really occurs to anybody anymore. When you talk to a mom or a dad who just took out a bunch of loans to send their kid to the university, how often do you hear them say things like, I hope he learns a lot, or I hope she expands her horizons, or I hope he comes out well prepared for the adult world? Well, you never hear those things. The things you do hear are things like, that damn kid better get that damn degree and justify all that debt I took out, because they don't view that silly bachelor's degree as having anything to do with education, insofar as education has anything to do with gaining knowledge or insight. I paid good money for that damn bachelor's degree. If my kid doesn't graduate, that school owes me a freaking refund. Bet you probably heard that one too. I sure have. Because like I said, the prevailing perception of the college degree is as nothing but a consumer product that one buys for a commensurate amount of money. If your kid spent 4 years at the university and they gained a really impressive body of knowledge in the process, but for some reason they didn't graduate, most parents today would view that as a very distressing calamity. Why? Because in their mind, they purchased a product that never got delivered. Well, who gives a shit if my kid's really smart now? I sent him to get an education, not knowledge. And education means a very expensive piece of paper that you stick on the wall. That's all it means. A normal person living in a sane society might consider that same money to have been well spent, in spite of the degree not having been gained. I sent my kid to the university, and he came back really smart. Isn't that the way this exercise is supposed to work? As a parent, shouldn't I place far more importance in that than in whether or not he came home with a diploma? Well, yes, you should, but alas, we don't live in a sane society and we seem to have an acute shortage of normal people. And so, that outcome is viewed as a tragic one because, God damn it, I paid for an idiot with a bachelor's degree, not a genius who never graduated. Is it comforting to externally assign blame for all the calamities that afflict our culture? Sure it is. Is it intellectually honest? Not so much. Because, as is so often the case, if we're serious about fixing the thing, the first place we need to look is directly in the mirror and begin by getting our own house in order. Is our entire education system today a train wreck inside a dumpster fire, inside a toxic waste dump? Yes. And why is that? First and foremost, it is because we ourselves allowed it to happen. And we can't hope to ever fix it without summoning the self-awareness and the moral courage to arrive at that very most obvious of conclusions. Thanks very much indeed for watching. See you next time. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.